Intel has been trading sideways for a couple of months already, but within the current correction, the green wave 4, it has finally matched the proportions of the green wave 2. This enables a bottom to have become a much higher likelihood to occur, as most often the correction within the wave 4 will not be smaller than the correction within the wave 2. This is no longer the case, and it can get bigger, but the minimum requirement I would typically look out for, the match, has just completed today. So by the end of this video, you will know exactly the expectations I have for this stock and the levels of support I'm tracking within the large time frame, as well as the structure that I'm tracking within the correction and the relevant levels of resistance that I needed to break to indicate that a bottom could already be in, and even an opportunity that would imply a bottom could be in, which would be reconfirmed by breaking the relevant levels of resistance. Welcome to the trade setup. So, in the case of Intel, we have been looking for this blue wave tree to develop for quite a while now. The ideal target has not changed ever since we had the bottom within the blue wave 2, and it still sits at around $200. Since it hasn't been reached, there is a good chance this structure will extend even further. So what I'm tracking is a 5-wave pattern within the blue wave tree. I believe there to be a high likelihood that right now it would still be developing an internal wave tree. That is what I'm tracking in green, which means that once we have the next rally in place, I would not be looking for a top to be in, but rather I would be looking for yet another correction within the wave 4 and then another extension to higher prices within the wave 5. There is a very good chance that we will reach the $200 level, however, within this very next move, but I would still prefer for it to extend higher after it forms an internal correction. In the end, there will be a number of different scenarios that could fit the picture of this stock. Some of them more bullish, but we don't have that many options that are particularly bearish, to be honest. So I'm focused on the internal structure. I'm focused on this setup where, again, finally, the wave 4, where it currently stands, where we don't know if we have a bottom in, has formed the correction for the same period of time that wave 2 has formed its correction. I already have 3 waves in place. I am tracking a sharp decline within the wave 2. I am tracking an expanded flat within the wave 4, which satisfies very nicely the rule of alternation. So right now, there would be great value in looking for a potential bottom, as the range that I'm looking for this wave 5 to top within would have actually quite extended levels. I'd be watching the 38.2% extension of the entire move up, so about $150, all the way up to the 61.8% extension just above $200. Then given that we are looking at an expanded flat, there is a good chance the wave 5 would end up being a rather strong one, right? We can expect a pretty decent move to occur within this structure, and I believe 2x would be a quite easily achievable target for this next rally that I expect for Intel. And a 2x within the wave 5, I don't believe should be anything to surprise us. Now, with all of that said, I cannot know that a bottom is in, but I can track the internal structure, the internal count within this wave C of the larger wave 4 in green. And within this structure, we unfortunately do not have the most clear picture, but what I'm tracking at this point in time would be the idea of an impulse, where the impulse could very easily be towards the very late stages of this pattern. I'd be tracking a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Within this interpretation, all this structure needs to build to have a complete wave C, a complete count, would be one additional low. That could form a higher low, to be honest. It would end up being a truncation, but that would not be a deal breaker to me. It does happen decently often that when the very late stages of a pattern complete, something like the wave 5 of the wave 5 of a wave C, we do not form an extension beyond the previous top or the previous bottom. Not necessarily my preference, especially since within this white wave 4 I'm currently tracking an impulse, but it is something to keep in mind. So what I'm tracking in the case of this structure would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. This is my primary count for the internal wave 5 in white. The wave 3 within this wave 5 has perfectly reached the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. That is textbook. It's not necessarily a particularly pretty structure within the smaller time frame, but it has fulfilled these expectations perfectly. So what is expected to happen next is to push into the levels of resistance for a correction within the wave 4, which goes all the way up to the 50% retracement, $96.40, and then get one additional low within this internal wave 5, thus completing a larger 5-wave pattern within the wave 5 of the larger wave C. At that point, every single one of these waves would have a complete count, completing the large wave C. Now, in terms of expectations, I don't necessarily believe that this wave 5 needs to extend even further, right? The wave 5 of the wave C. It has honestly done enough, but the pattern simply doesn't seem particularly full. So I'm watching for that one additional low potentially, where it seems we have already pushed into the last level of resistance. We already have 3 waves up into it. So ideally it wouldn't push any higher. Although, to be honest now, I wouldn't be too surprised, especially within such a small time frame, that we get one additional high to complete this more clearly as a 5-wave pattern, pushing into this previous high structural resistance at $97 and then seeing the correction extend lower. Now, is this the only option that we would need to consider for Intel to break? Actually, no. Within this structure, as I was saying, we have a rather complicated pattern. I do believe this idea of an impulse is a quite nice fit, and definitely breaking the 50% retracement here would be the first large step in forming a bottom, would probably be the most important signal we would identify, but that doesn't automatically confirm that a bottom would be in. We could be looking at different structures to develop. We could be looking at an ending diagonal in some manner or the other. We would then have possibly something like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. But even in that case, all I could expect for continuation to lower prices would be the idea of an A, B, C pattern where it would be expected to push higher and then extend lower. But it's not a particularly likely scenario. So right now, the odds are that we either have a bottom in, or we are looking for one additional low within this small time frame before looking for the reversal to happen, before looking for Intel to head towards $200. I will remind you once more, watch for the structural resistance we had within this internal correction in the wave 4. And if the levels of resistance up to the 50% retracement get a brief break, don't automatically assume that a bottom is in, that the levels have been broken. A brief break is acceptable, and I would most likely expect it to be the case anyway, that if we manage to push, especially today, into this $97 region, we will see some resistance, we will see a bit of an internal correction, even in the case of a successful breakout. Now, I want to clarify that looking at such small time frames, in the end, we cannot have too much certainty. In the end, the larger time frame picture is almost always going to paint a more reliable expectation. Right now, it so happens that the expectation is that we have a bottom or we are very close to forming one. Whether you choose to use this opportunity within the smaller time frame or the larger time frame is entirely up to you. Now, the opportunity that I was talking about within the smaller time frame would actually imply that this would have been a wave 1 up, this would have been a wave 2 down, and I'm looking for another 1, 2 to potentially form. This would also play into the idea where this structure would push into one additional high. As I only have 3 waves up at this point, I would primarily expect that this would either develop something like a series of 1-2 setups, in which case a pretty strong and direct breakout could occur, or it could build a 5-wave move to the upside, pushing into structural resistance, and then either building an internal wave 2, or completing this white wave 4. In this case, the most relevant levels of support I would generally consider to watch would unfortunately have to allow a bit of a deeper retracement, but this is simply because this is within such a small time frame that I simply cannot trust the structures within this move. I would like to consider that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 and a 5, and then we get another 4 and a 5 to complete this as a 1, to complete the pattern where this really would have been an extended wave 3, but I cannot trust that. So I am watching against $94.70 for continuation directly higher. And for now, this is about it for this stock. If you want even more from me, you can check out the Patreon, but for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one.